Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit, the week ending Friday, March 22nd. We're going to try to cover all the week's news for Rocket Pool in about 30 to 40 minutes. We always say 30, but it always turns into a little bit more. So 30 to 40, we're going to add some commentary. There's a couple things this week, Whack. Today is the first day, it's the equinox, so it's the first day of spring. Well, we're doing this on Thursday, March 21st, so happy spring. And then St. Patrick's Day was last weekend, too. Did you celebrate? Everyone's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, everyone's Irish. You got to do something green, so that's about as much as I did.
Yeah. So let's get into this week's episode. We got, it's been a volatile week for prices. Last week, it's funny, we recorded and I think we were saying, the week's been kind of flat on price. And then that night, everything just tanked, right?
Yeah.
But we've recovered a little bit. So I think ETH, it might have touched at its high 4,200. And then we had about a 30% correction and went down, I think, maybe around 3,200. Now we're back up to around, right now at time of recording, 3,524. So quite a volatile week. There's a lot of things going on in Ethereum we can talk about. We had got SEC stuff. We've got we got Fidelity and Grayscale amended their ETF applications to include staking. There's talk of the Ethereum Foundation had some kind of legal request of their stuff back on February 26th. So there's a lot to uncover there. Do you want to start on what you think?
Yeah. Okay. So, like you said, there's a lot of stuff there. The staking stuff, it's most likely that's not going to end up in any ETFs. If the ETFs are approved, I don't think this is going to be in the ETFs. As much as people in the Rocket Pool community are excited about there potentially being Fidelity ETH coming to Rocket Pool, I think everyone was kind of getting like a bit ahead of themselves with those ideas. First of all, I don't think staking is going to be in there. Second of all, if staking is in there, I don't think they're going to be staking with Rocket Pool, sadly. So that's a shame. Like, that would be amazing if they did. With the Canary, that was basically this message that there was on the Ethereum Foundation website saying, GitHub basically saying that, we've never had any contact from any governmental agency. And then on February 26th, there was, a change made to that to remove it. So people have been speculating wildly about what that means and what that might be. And, is this the SEC coming after the Ethereum Foundation? There was a whole lot of speculation, but very little actual information. There's then reports coming out, from the US that, this is about ETH potentially being deemed a security by the SEC. And that position doesn't make any sense because the SEC would obviously go to court about this. The SEC just lost the case against Ripple, a part of a case against Ripple where secondary market transactions were not deemed securities on XRP, which was probably the most security-like crypto token you could have. Ethereum's ICO was, in 2014, so it's outside the statute of limitations now, I think. Someone was saying, that's 5 years, so that's long before that. So it's just, when you think of it like that, it doesn't look that the SEC has much of a leg to stand on, but it could be that they're trying to find whatever angle they can to deny the ETH spot ETFs. It looks like every argument they might be making is going to not hold up. Now the question is, are they willing to reject it and then go to court, because they will definitely be taken to court, or will they just be like, we don't want to lose in court again, so we're just going to accept it? So at the moment, with all of this stuff, there's many different ways of looking at it. Sadly, there's too many variables and there's too many pieces of information that we just don't have the answer for. So people are just wildly speculating based on that. So yeah, that's what people are going to do, because there's a vacuum of information and they're just going to fill it with their heart's desires.
Sure. I think too, another wrinkle in this week's price action was, there's a old saying that as you crawl out of a bear market, you start to climb the wall of worry. You're going up and you're like, is this really it? Is this really it? And we moved up so quickly from 2,000 to 4,000 there was no worry on that wall. And I was starting to I felt like we're moving a little too quick, maybe getting past our skis a little bit. And this about 30% correction that we had is perfectly normal if you look back at other cycles. And it's kind of good, I think, in a way, in the long run, because you want to have one of these, excuse me, you want to have one of these blow-off tops, right? And so corrections are normal. It's part of the wall of worry. There should be a little worry as you climb the wall. And up until this point, we didn't have any. So I think this is good. And as we've recovered a little bit since that low. So right now we're at 3,500 or so.
Yeah, the low came yesterday with the SEC news, and that was down to 3150, and that was about 25% retracement basically from 4,200, and now we're almost gone back halfway. Like we've already gone up 10% from there, pretty much. Like we've still got a little bit of ways to go, but it was definitely it cooled the markets down a little bit, and I think that's normal. It's just for people who've we've kind of forgotten what the last bull market was like. So seeing those 20, 30, 40, 50% corrections, even, like I think at one point we had like a 55% correction on ETH from 4,400 down to 1,700 before we went back up to 4,800. So these things happen. You just gotta kind of like ride along with it and just don't blow up, right? Like that's the main thing. Like if you're taking leverage at the peak, and you took 4 or 5, 10x leverage, then now you've liquidated, you've lost everything. So
yes,
that's
don't
the main
blow
lesson.
Yourself up.
Don't blow yourself up. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
let's take a look at RPL price. So right now in US dollar terms, we're at 28.71. In ETH, let's look at ETH terms. So last week we were at 0.00916, and we are currently at 0.0082. So we lost a little bit on the ETH ratio.
about 10%.
Yeah, and we've recovered a little bit on US dollar terms. Thoughts on RPL?
Yeah, I think last week was rewards week, which people buy into rewards week because they want to top up their collateral on their validators. So then that, I think, was some of the pump that we saw last week was because of that. And then with the price decrease, of course, when ETH goes down, then other tokens like RPL, the ETH beta plays, they go down more. So that's kind of where we are right now. I think we've actually held up not too bad. Like we haven't seen new lows basically. Well, we actually did see a new low. We went to 0.0079, but since then we've not gone much further lower than that. Like we've not hit new cycle lows yet, which are 0.0075, which was in summer 2022. So that would not be fun to visit, but there's a chance that we will. Like Houston is still 6 weeks away, and then any post Houston incidents that happen are still potentially like 2 or 3 months away. So hopefully we'll get some nice movement going into Houston and the period after Houston, but at the moment that's the next thing, right? And that's still a fair ways away.
Yeah, so let's talk about the other thing related to this. Was in the Discord we had a wall command that folks could call, and it would it would show the amount of, I guess, sell and buy pressure on both sides. And it was disabled this week, and the reason it was because it wasn't really showing an accurate picture of liquidity. And over the last several months, it's been mostly on the red, where you have all these. It looks like you've got just massive amounts of sell and just teeny weeny little bits of buy, but that's only showing the Uniswap V3 pool, and not all the other. Right. There's a lot of other liquidity out there. For example, if you use CowSwap, that's not using Uniswap in the way the mechanisms work. That's not going to show up on that wall command. So do you want to talk about how, because I think that over time that just builds into this negative sentiment, because with RPL, because every time you see that, I think since it's been disabled, it's been called like 64 times or something. People are just so used to calling it. So if you're in Discord, every few minutes someone's calling it, and you see you see all this negativity. I think over time it builds, and that would be fine. But if it's not showing a real accurate picture, then it's really doing a disservice. Even if it was all green, if it was the other way too. So, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So, it was LFO looking for owls, and then later Bossy, and those are the two people who were like, this is just negative. And what happened is a few weeks ago, Val put out like some research that he did about where RPL volume is, and he saw that like since Atlas, like we got listed on a whole bunch of centralized exchanges, so Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, OKX, like a whole bunch of them.
Yep.
A lot of them basically. And what happened is they have RPL USD pairs instead of RPL ETH pairs, which is what the Uniswap pool has. What's ended up happening over the last year is more and more of liquidity for RPL has moved away from ETH pairs and onto RPL USD pairs, or even other places, not just on Uniswap. Like there's a balancer pool now that has a chunk of RPL in there, and CowSwap has off-chain liquidity as well. Like that's what you were insinuating. So the Uniswap V3 pool that was on the wall command represented just around 5% of RPL's volume, which is such a minuscule amount, and it had such an outsized bearing on like the psyche of the community.
Yeah,
that I think it just made sense to like just remove that, because like you said, like it was impacting more negatively than it should have been, right, based on the values of that command basically.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully, I think it's good. To be honest, I agree with LFO and Bossy. Like, just get rid of it because it's not accurate, and it's pushing everyone into a bad mood. we don't need it. Okay, so let's move on to some news items. First, last maybe a month ago, Starknet announced their token airdrop. They had a little bit of a hiccup with trying to give it to stakers. There's been some updates on that. So this comes from, I believe, their Discord, and they are basically saying that Starknet Foundation's been working with different staking teams to overcome challenges. The Starknet will facilitate the airdrop on behalf of these staking providers. Like, I assume Rocket Pool is one of them. We don't know exactly, but from last few weeks, at Langer's, he said that they've been in touch with the Starknet folks. So it sounds like that perhaps starting in April, there might be some movement on this issue, and maybe Rocket Pool will be receiving some staking or some Starknet tokens. So I've also heard if you're an all nodes ETH staker, not a Rocket Pool staker, in their Discord they've been working with the Starknet folks as well, and they've been collecting information, and that it sounds like there's been movement on that front as well. So it sounds like Starknet. We were originally whack when this news came out that it was possible we'd have to wait till the season 2 airdrop, which that could be 6 months, a year from now. But it sounds like this could be resolved next month in April.
Yeah, which is really exciting. So they're saying beginning of April as well, beginning in April. So you got the whole thing covered there. The thing that's nice about this announcement is it kind of overlaps with what we've heard from Langers and people in the Rocket Pool community about how things are going. So we knew that there was contact. We knew that there was this idea of curating the correct list of addresses, and that kind of lines up with what we've been hearing. The new information here was that this was going to happen in April, so that was definitely a huge boost, because April's 2 weeks away, beginning of April. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be pretty great boost for the Rocket Pool community. And you're pulling up the Starknet token price, so it's at $2.15 right now, so 1,800 tokens that you should be getting. I think that's not confirmed, although that's what I think it will be. works out to be like nearly $4,000, like $3,800. So that is not insignificant. Like it's a really nice amount of money. And if the Starknet price goes up a little bit, like you'd be getting $5,000 per validator, which is amazing. I'm actually curious to see how much of that will flow back to RPL and people like topping up their nodes or just getting RPL because the price is really low right now. I'm curious to see how that's going to work out. I know that I'll be swapping some of my airdrop for RPL, so I'm waiting.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but otherwise, I think it'll be a nice boost to the community because we really need a win.
Right. Yeah, and if it does come through in April and the prices have pumped a little bit, maybe it's in the $3 and $3.50 range. I don't know. I can't remember what it was like a week after the original release of the token. If I think it was $2 and something. It started up higher and then came down. But anyway, my point is, it might be a silver lining in that folks who have received it at a lower price and sold it, well, in April you might be getting it at a higher price and you'll have more money. Although you'll have to pay taxes on
the high price. Yeah.
If you're one of those people who are paying taxes,
which everyone should be paying taxes because because you don't want the IRS to come after you.
No. So, but anyways, that's good news that we got some movement on this. We'll be covering it in the weeks ahead. Okay, quickly another news item. We've had the ARPIP 38, which was the decision on the Eigenlayer bounty, has finished. And there was 2 votes. The first vote, WAC, was basically, do you agree or disagree with the GMC's bounty that they approved? Should we just stop it? And that failed. There was 81% against reversing that decision. Okay, so then the second one was a lot closer. And this was, okay, if they do the initial study, should we then force a vote to continue from research to going to the next phase and the next phase? That's how I understand it. That was a lot closer. Not quite?
It's not quite that, yeah. But I can explain that. That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, explain that. So we're at, against was at 49, it was about 50% against and 43% for. So that failed as well because you had to have more than 50% for. So explain that second one, because I think on this vote it was a little confusing for some people.
Yeah. So
myself.
The second one, there's 2 phases of the vote of the bounty. The first phase of the bounty is research, like saying, is this integration even possible? And then the second phase of the research is actually building the integration. So of the bounty, is building the actual integration. Now, the first one was, let's just scrap everything. Let's not even do the research. So the community overwhelmingly voted against that. Like they didn't want that to happen. They did want the bounty to go through. The second one was a little bit more nuanced because the GMC in its decision already put in a PDAO vote to say, should we continue at this point? So there was a little bit of an overlap there. So the main difference was, there would be research and then the GMC said just have a vote and carry on. And we already have the parameters of the bounty set up. However, the appeal here was let's do the research and then stop. And then at that point, they can put in another request for a bounty or a grant and carry on the work. So that was kind of a little bit more of a nuanced position, but it seems like, people did want to vote and, they didn't know that there was already going to be a vote after the research phase, just based on the GMC's decision. But at that point, then it's just about the scope of the bounty and like what's coming after that. So both of those obviously, like we said, failed. The appeals failed. So the GMC's original decision stands, which means now there's a bounty for you to do research for Eigenlayer. It will pay you $10,000. And after that point, then there's the integration to work on. And if you want to work on that, that'll pay you, I think, $40,000 or $50,000. So there's a good amount of money there for someone to go and claim and see how it all works together.
Right. So if you're excited about Eigenlayer and you want to work on that research, there's $10,000 sitting there waiting for you. And I know there's a lot of interest out there too about would it be beneficial for Rocket Pool to be part of the Eigenlayer ecosystem? or not. And some people are excited, some people aren't. But hey, we'll have to see what the research shows, and that's what this bounty is for. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, speaking of GMC, Schifrin came out with a really beautiful report, in-depth report, January 2023 to February 2024. I believe that coincides with his position. He's right, isn't it about a year?
No. It starts from before he started. So it starts from the first. Yeah, it starts from the first round, and then we had all the data there, of course. So he was able to use that data, and then
when did he start? Wasn't it?
He started in round 3, I think. So last summer.
Oh,
so
geez, I think it was earlier than that.
Someone left. I think it was Mentor who left, and then Schifrin replaced Mentor. I think. I'm not exactly sure, but he replaced someone. He wasn't one of the original GMC members.
Yeah, he's done a great job. His
amazing job.
I mean, he's a great steward of the GMC.
Yeah,
and this beautiful report really breaks it down from the RPIPs, the subcommittees, rapid research. It goes into all the details about how many applications per month, how many approved, percentage of approvals. Kind of breaks down the types of applications from development, from governance to marketing, which the Weekly Orbit and Rocket Fuel are part of that. Public goods and all the totals. Is there anything that jumps out at you? Now you're a GMC committee member, WAC. It looks pretty diversified, to be honest. Just from a high level. Anything that sticks out to you that excites you or concerns you or both?
Yeah, one of the things that really sticks out is just how much RPL we have. So we have 54,000 RPL waiting to be spent. And one of the things that Schifrin covers in this is we want to spend more of it. So if you have good ideas for work that you want to do, work that you have been doing, or work you think someone else should do, please submit that information to the GMC, and we will work with you to get that information polished and ready for submission as a formal grant or application. You don't have to take on all the work yourself. There's people in the GMC who will help you do that work if we think it's valuable. So please apply for grants, please apply for retroactive awards for works that you've done, and please apply for bounties if you think there's work that someone else should be doing, because we've got a whole bunch of money there, over $1.5 million at current prices, and if we get a nice price pump, then that'll be potentially multiple millions of dollars, which will be amazing, but we want to spend that, so get on it and apply. And one of the things that Schifrin here is saying that we want to try to double our applications per month, and that looks like that should be a really good idea, I think. So we want to pay, we want to spend this money, we don't want to hoard it, and that's the big thing that really jumped out of this report. But it's really cool that we've got a very nicely balanced portfolio of things that we pay for, and I think that's some really good stuff has come out of the GMC.
Yeah, and if we're measuring this in RPL, so if Rocket Pool is successful, the price of RPL goes up, which means the expenditures actually go down because the price is so much. So, for example, the Eigenlayer bounty is $10,000 but if they'd be paid, say, in RPL, well, if the price has doubled, then you're paying half as much RPL, which means the treasury is even more full. Yep. So it becomes more difficult to spend all the RPL as the protocol becomes more successful. Yeah, but I've been a fortunate recipient of a couple grants. I know you have too. If you've got a great idea, or you think you do, put together an application, submit it, because the committee is saying here, listen, we want double the amount of applications, and we want to hand out double basically the amount of money. So it's money on the table waiting for you in the event that you got a cool idea.
Absolutely.
Okay. On to our next item. So Houston, we talked a little bit about Houston is going to allow marriages between those who have ETH and those who have RPL. And we had Love Points came into the forum, and it's a little hard to read. But he or she says, I've got 500 ETH, and I'm looking to stake. And he's looking for a marriage. And Ramana and him created they used Rocket Split, which I believe Ramana, is that one of his little smart contracts?
GMC funded project.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's great. So they created a marriage. They started off at just one LEB8. And after this current rewards period, which has a few more weeks, they're going to then expand it out. But they just want to kind of run through the first one and then make sure all the mechanics are working just fine. But he's got 500 plus ETH. So this is kind of exciting. We haven't had one of these in a while, Whack. And I'm hoping we're going to get a whole bunch more of these after Houston because of explain. Now I was reading the back and forth between Ramana and what's his name, Love Points.
Love Points.
Yeah, will Houston make it easier for this? Will people use Rocket Split? Can you explain a little bit of the mechanics? Say you are a whale and you come in, you've got, hey, I got 1,000 ETH. Hey, who wants to pair up with me? How will Houston make it easier for that?
No, Houston's slightly different. So with the Rocket Split, the great thing about Rocket Split is like it's a customizable contract. So you can change the parameters based on what you want to do. Like, let me give you an example, okay? So Ramana and I are married. We have our own like precursor to Rocket Split contract where the withdrawal address of the node that Ramana runs is that split contract. And where with that, the RPL and ETH comes into that contract and then it gets divided out to me and Ramana. Now, I pay Ramana 10% of my RPL rewards as like a commission for him to run the node. With Love Points, however, Love Points is actually changing the balance because he wants to entice people to start a node with him, a marriage with him. So he's actually going to give away some of his ETH rewards and keep not keep any of the RPL rewards as well. So there's a lot of like little fine tuning that you can do with the Rocket Split contract that will let you change these parameters depending on who's getting into the marriage, what their needs are, what their wants are, and what they think they're going to get from it. So it's really customizable. So this is a contract. It's just like the withdrawal address of the validator goes to that contract, and then the rewards get divided out. With Houston, what's changing is that the node will have, there's going to be 4 things that go into it. There's stake on behalf of ETH, stake on behalf of RPL, and then we're going to have withdrawal address for ETH and a withdrawal address for RPL. Now, what that means is, Bob can be running a node, and provided that node is set up in the right way, you, Pat, could stake ETH on that. I could stake RPL on that. Then the withdrawal address for that node is ETH and RPL separately. So the RPL rewards would come to me and the ETH rewards would go to you. So there's this like limitations basically on how the node can be set up and where the ETH is coming from, where the RPL is coming from. And the great thing about the Houston is going to enshrine basically the whale marriage into the protocol, but it's not going to give you that granularity of the customizability. It's just going to be flat, like RPL goes here, ETH goes there. There's not going to be any difference. But the benefit that you get from that is this is going to be tested by consensus diligence. It's going to be tested by Sigma Prime. These are the best of the best auditing houses in crypto, and they've been working with Rocket Pool for years. We've not had any significant breaches of any of our contracts, so it adds a level of faith in the system that Rocket Split doesn't have. Basically, Rocket Split, you'd have to go and audit that contract yourself, or hire someone or ask someone to have a look at it yourselves. You wouldn't get that audit from the best in the business. So I think the audiences are quite different. With Houston, it's more likely that I think you'll get some of the bigger players potentially using that system. Whereas with Rocket Split, Love Points, has 500 ETH, which is, a sizable amount, but Ramana and my marriage only has, I think, 12 or 13 validators, LEB8s. So it's not that big, you know what I mean? There's less than 100 ETH in there. So it really does, it allows, there's trade-offs, right? With the enshrined one, you get, the audits and security that you get from Rocket Pool. with Rocket Split, you get the customizability for like those non-standard splitters. So that's what Love Points is doing. He's trying to entice you. So if you've got 20,000 RPL lying around, you can get married to Love Points, and then you'll get all your RPL rewards, which is like 9% right now. And then he's still trying to figure out how much of his ETH rewards he's willing to give away. But I think you can enter that negotiation. I think he said, up 3% potentially, or maybe even a little bit more. So that's really cool.
Yeah. It is cool. And let's move on to our last item for the week. So our tokenomics rework, we started back in last
November.
Maybe it was November. It started with the whack curse infested rant, and we've moved quite a bit. So the debate has now moved from basically Discord into the official forum, and where they are. This is like the last step before formal RPIPs are provided to the community, and so Valdorf started it off. I just want to bring this to everyone's attention because if you have any questions or you want to debate, this is where you'll want to do it. I'll have a list. I'll post it in the show notes. One thing to note is Langer's responded here in terms of the team's perspective. He says, we are kicking off workshops this week. This was about 3 days ago. We're kicking off workshops this week to break down each of the RPIPs. This is so that we can socialize across the team, can provide feedback, and get an idea of sizing and complexity to facilitate estimation. We can work on the estimation and timeline in parallel to the governance process. Bear in mind, there is still Houston work going on, so it's a bit of a balancing act to get that out and dedicate time to scoping these RPIPs. The Houston work should ease off in the next 2 weeks, and in the meantime, we will run these workshops. And so that's kind of giving a perspective, because a lot of folks are saying, okay, well, when can we expect? What's the timelines here? We've had broad estimations, but we won't really know until the team kind of goes into the details. So, any thoughts or where we're at here on tokenomics?
Yeah, there's still some unknowns here. Like, this isn't, fully decided. Because it's gone to the forum now, it just means that this is a little bit more of a formal discussion instead of like a free-for-all that you get in the Discord. And that's by design, right? You iron out the ideas in the Discord, and then once you get, some semblance of good ideas, then you can bring them to the forum and like kind of elevate the level of discourse. And that's kind of where we're at now. So the way we stand is, the Val and Samus's tokenomics plan is going to be broken down into 7 or 8 different RPIPs. And those will all need to be voted on, of course. However, we're not sure how they'll all come together as an upgrade for the protocol. Like, will they all happen at the same time? Will they happen across 2 updates? Will they happen across 3 updates? What's the time frame for this? Will they start, 6 months from now? Will they start a year from now? Will they start 2 years from now? There's a lot of these are still unknowns, and the fact that Langer is already getting involved and kind of like sharing the team's ideas and perspectives is really promising. I think from this point, it'll probably be like another 6, maybe 8 weeks of discussions and like temp checks, like, just sentiment checks in the community about how we want to proceed. I expect it to be, if there's nothing else that slows things down, like this will probably go to vote in May, right around Houston. So I think that that's something to look out for. However, depending on how things go in the community, that might change a little bit. It might get pushed out a little bit more. But this is where we stand right now. So this is quite exciting. And this was the next step that we wanted. The only difference is, we wanted there to be more ideas, but you'll take what you can get, I guess. But I think this is really, really promising, and this is like the next step. So we knew this was going to be coming any day now.
Yeah, and for listeners and watch, we're gonna have Samus on next week's show. Samus is one of the principals with Eldorf, kind of coordinating the tokenomics rework. So the plan is to have him on next week to just give us an update. We had him on during ETH Denver about a month. It'll be about a month by next week. So he'll be on if you're looking forward to hearing more about tokenomics. Okay, so let's move on to wins. Do you have a win this week, Wack?
Yeah, my win is the Denkun upgrade and the aftermath of the Denkun upgrade. It's been amazing using Ethereum on layer 2s. It's been so much fun. And I've been playing around with Base, and I've already been using Optimism and Arbitrum before, and ZK Sync I've used a lot as well. But the last few days I've just been using Base quite a lot, and one of the things that I did in the Discord this week was gathering up a whole bunch of people's addresses so I can send them a little bit of ETH and a little bit of RPL so they can go and play on Base and do fun stuff, because it's amazing. Like, like I sent last week's rocket fuel contributor prizes to people on Base. And normally, it costs me $50, $60, $70 in gas fees to send those prizes out. But I think I sent everyone their RPL and a little bit of ETH on top, and it cost me like 30 cents. So, literally 99% discount from mainnet prices, which is absolutely amazing to see. So it's been a lot of fun using Base. So that is my big win of the week.
So I'll let you slide, because I think last week he also said Denkun was your win of the week.
But I've been doing more with it, right? Like, I've actually been engaging with it now, and getting people onboarded to Base onto layer 2. That's the progression. It's not the same thing. It's just that big a deal. It was really cool. It's amazing.
It's a big win. So
it's a big win. Yeah.
It is a big win. My win for the week is for those who with volatility, that they held firm, didn't start panic selling, didn't trade away. We talk about all the time about don't blow yourself up. So for those folks who haven't taken leverage, for those who don't sit there and trade away the second they see something on their screen which gives them anxiety, you're kind of rewarded, because we've dropped 25%, and now we're back up. We've regained about half of that. So that's my win for those who don't trade too much, and those who don't blow themselves up with leverage. So stay safe. The biggest thing here, again, we say it over and over with the bull, you just can't you'll be okay. Generally speaking, just the less you do, the better you'll be. And I think this week is a good example of that, where, hey, if you just went away on vacation, you came back, you'd be like, oh, ETH went down a few $100 from last time I looked at it, right? And it's like, big deal. So that's my win. Keep up the good work if you don't trade.
Yeah, and even if you do trade, just be aware of how you can blow yourself up and take some actions to not get blown up, basically. I think, that's where
some
we are right now.
They recommend, hey, if you because I understand some folks really get excitement and they like, that. Take 5% or a small 10% of your portfolio. This is not financial advice, but take, if it's entertainment, just like some folks like going to a casino, and they like going in on a Friday night and spending some money. And if they win it, they win. If they don't, they don't, and that's okay. Same thing with here. If you really like doing that, just limit yourself to a small portion of your portfolio, so you can play around and you can get that dopamine hit. When you do hit a good trade. So, but just be careful out there, because, man, you could lose your pants quick.
You can lose everything.
So, yeah. Okay, well, that wraps up the episode. Thanks for listening and watching and being part of the Rocket Pool community. We will see you next week, and we'll have Samus on, so that'll be really fun to talk some tokenomics. Until then, take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.